you reduce the baseline potential further negative, then it is difficult to excite that cell, whether it is a nerve cell or muscle cell or any other cell. So in this particular case, because of chloride entry, it causes the baseline basal electrical potential further down, less than 50, 60, minus 78, it can go all the way to minus 90. That we call hyperpolarization. So even if the neurons, the GABA binds it allows chloride, so neurons become less excitable. Means what? The neurons are sleeping now. That's what makes us sleep. Now what benzodiazepine is doing, it is increasing the number or increase the time of this chloride channel to stay open. So that the longer the chloride channel stay open, more chloride goes in, more hyperpolarization. That's what it is. Now, if you look at the last yellow line, as I said, if normal GABA, the neurotransmitter, is not there, then the benzodiazepines are useless. So do not expect, if a person has any other comorbidity, if there is any neuronal damage, if there is any issue that is not producing enough GABA or GABAergic signal, benzodiazepines won't work because it potentiates the effects of GABA. It do not have by itself any pharmacologic action. So that is the key point here too. So now, as you said, there are hyperpolarizations. So the GABAergic neurons are quiet, they are less excitable. Once it is less excitable, everything else falls down. That's how we produce sleep, apparently. So, why I said we have a better drug compared to barbiturates? Because if you see here, both barbiturates and benzodiazepines that produce similar sedative effect, but the concentration that needed or to get a biological effect is higher for barbiturate. It is in the micromolar level compared to benzodiazepines. It is in the nanomolar level. The key point for barbiturates, it produces dependency and addiction. Benzodiazepines does produce dependency but no addiction. So these are the two areas why we were not much happy with barbiturate earlier and we moved towards benzodiazepines. But still, we do not say this is because of the, it is a better drug or anything. We minimize some of the adverse effects of barbiturate. And the other key point is the CNS depression. We will talk about that a little more in the later part. The barbiturate have different mechanism of action. Like when we said benzodiazepines, when it binds to the receptor, it potentiates the effects of GABA. It do not have itself a own effect. However, if it is barbiturate, it can depress the cell by itself without any GABA. So that what creates the difference. Okay. What are the pharmacological properties of benzodiazepines? As you said, it do not have neither antipsychotic or analgesic effects, and it do not affect autonomic nervous system. But autonomic nervous system does impact the sleep pattern or sleep issues. So because of that, we have the common effect that we are looking into to achieve by using benzodiazepines. So we put there 4 or 5 of them. It reduces anxiety, it reduces sedation, and it has amnesia. This is the anterograde amnesia. This is the effect we do not want. It can be used as an anticonvulsant. We do not want to use it. And it has muscle relaxant property. Now, if a person has no other issue besides the sleep disorder, you want to induce sleep, you are getting some additive effect. So what the pharmacologist does, they look into the drug, what it is doing that we don't want, and then they look for another compound which can minimize that effect that we do not want. So that are drugs that we are going to talk in the subsequent slides. We have drugs now that do not produce any anticonvulsant effect, it do not produce the anterograde amnesia, and it do not have the muscle relaxant property. How we came to the point? Because now we know how those neurotransmitters and how the drugs are work, how the sleeps are being produced, and we can manipulate in the right place. Okay. What are the CNS effects of benzodiazepines? As we said, it binds with the benzodiazepines receptor, the area in the GABA receptors. It facilitates or it augments the activity of GABA so that we fall asleep. What are the effects on the EEG and sleep pattern? Because there are delta wave and other wave that is involved. So what the benzodiazepines does, as I said earlier, as a class summary, it reduces the latency so the patient falls asleep quick. then it increased the duration of stage 1 and 2, but it reduced the duration for stage 3 and 4. It do not touch the RAM part, or if any of them don't, it reduce the RAM also. Now, as you know, we mentioned in that, we put in earlier slides, these sleep cycles are in this sleep process are in a cyclical way. So there is a segment of non-REM and REM sleep, then it goes back again and again. There are almost 6 or 7 cycles. So by reducing the 3 and 4 stage and by increasing 1 and 2 stage, it increases the duration for non-REM part. So that's how it helps. And what are the systemic effects? That is the good part. In comparison to barbiturates, it do not impact much in terms of respiration. It may reduce the blood pressure, but there are compensatory heart rate increase. And the GI drug, this is more of a psychological. If there are any anxiety-related GI upset, then the diabetes helps it. Other than that, there is no pharmacologic action in that perspective. Okay. Again, the last therapeutic use we put here is the sleep disorder. Although it can be used for as an anticonvulsant in seizure, it can be used as a muscle relaxant. I do not know how we can use it for amnesia. Probably by providing, changing the sleep pattern, it may help. Now, this is that part which is very important. The we call it the ADME, the drug absorption, distribution, metabolism, and excretion. So this ADME is important because of different benzodiazepines. We have a list of benzodiazepines. We call it short-acting, intermediate-acting, and long-acting. We go there. Now, the very first point is lipophilic. It has the good part and the bad part. As you know, any drug that is lipophilic, it will be stored in the body because of the adipose tissue. That is the bad part. Good part is it will be absorbed very quick because of the lipid bilayer of the cell membrane. So once it is absorbed, because it can be absorbed very quick, it distributes all over the body. But some of those benzodiazepines, because of their lipophilic nature, they stay inside the system. So that goes through some of those dependencies, some of those tolerance, some of those withdrawal effect, all because of this chemistry. Now, as you said, they are rapidly absorbed completely after oral administration, except one drug, clozapine. And we already mentioned. So here, this is the list of benzodiazepines: the short-acting, the intermediate, and long-acting. Now, that based on their T-half or the half-life, how long they are in the system. Now, there are, as we mentioned in the very beginning of the talk, you have to understand your patient. What is the issue? Is the patient has a problem inducing sleep, or is the patient has a problem maintaining sleep? So if a patient has a problem with induction, then you go with a short-acting one. If a person has a problem in maintaining the sleep duration, then you may go with the intermediate or long-acting. But again, because of the lipophilicity, the long-acting and intermediate-acting, they have some other issues that come in. One of the issues is this drug. So again, it is coming from pharmacokinetic parts. Once the drugs being metabolized, the active metabolites that they produce, they have similar effect. So even though we have a drug that we put flurazepam, its half-life is only 2.3 hours. That means if it is flurazepam itself, you should give the drug. It's supposed to be a short-acting. Within 2.3 hours, it peaks, it eliminates from the body. No. The active, actually the duration is 47 to 100 hours. Why? Because when it is metabolized, the active metabolized, it also binds with benzodiazepine receptors. So even though original drug is eliminated, the metabolized remains in the system. So this point needs to be considered. That's why I put it in yellow. Because it stays in the system for longer. So if you withdraw the drug, even though you are expecting the patient will be out of the drug within 24 hours, no, it stays for long. And as one advantage there, because of that long half-life, the withdrawal effects are gradual because the active metabolites eliminating from the system gradually too. Now, most of these drugs, they are metabolized by the cytochrome P450 system. Why that is important? Because now we know that if there is any other drug that metabolized by the same enzyme systems, there is a competition. If there is for any reason enzyme induction, the viability or the functional action of each drug may vary. If there are binding issues, especially for this kind of drug, lipophilicity, removing from the adipose tissue, then change the viability again. So the drug interaction is very critical for these drugs. However, for benzodiazepines, there are no clinical results that shows that they are severely interacting with any other drug, except one. We are coming there. Now, as it is metabolized, it becomes conjugated. So we need to excrete it. Ultimately, they become either glucuronidase or oxidase product excreted by the kidney. So that is our main route of elimination. Now the two other key points, because of the lipophilicity, they cross all the barriers. So one barrier they cross is placenta. So you have to be very careful when you are prescribing to a pregnant lady before delivery. It may depress the CNS. It may cross through the breast milk. So the infant may also have the residual effect because of the treatment. Okay, the dependency again, it has the dependency, so we cannot avoid it. So only thing we do is that we cannot withdraw abruptly because of this, some of the metabolite that is still in the system. And this chart, what it is showing that drugs that are short-acting, means their elimination half-life is quicker, their withdrawal effects are more because they are out of the system very quickly, and it creates it produces that withdrawal symptom quickly too. However, the one that we don't like, the long-acting, which has long duration, that's the advantage now. Their withdrawal effects are gradual too. So you have to be attentive when you try or you are withdrawing that. Okay. Then we talk about the the adverse effects of benzodiazepines. See here, drowsiness, ataxia, cognitive impairment, and tolerance. These are all we know because of the chemistry of the drug. But one thing is better for benzodiazepines because of the toxicity effect. The ratio of benzodiazepines and effective dose and the toxic dose is very high. Because of that, we prefer it over morphine, over any other hypnotics, even over barbiturates. So the poisoning of benzodiazepines are far less compared to other dose drugs that we used to use before. Now, as I mentioned about the drug interaction, the only thing that we need to consider is ethanol, alcohol. So this is I think it's a black box warning for the benzodiazepines. Do not consume alcohol while you are taking this drug. Why? Because it increases the absorption of benzodiazepines. So once it is more absorbed, and alcohol has the ability of enzyme induction, especially those cytochrome enzymes. So once the enzymes are more, absorptions are more, and if the drug has active metabolite that is functional too, then it worsens the situation. So only warning that comes with the drug interaction part is not to consume the drug with alcohol. Okay. So this is the valproate. Valproate is the anti-anxiety drug. That is the other drug that we do not prescribe together because it may produce some more antipsychotic effect. Now I'm giving the examples of a couple of benzodiazepines. They have all similar effect. Only thing that the reason I put these drugs again separately, if you notice, the difference, their mechanisms are same. Only difference is because of their half-life. So some of them are short-acting, some of them are intermediate-acting. So when you choose, when you are prescribing a patient, which one you want to choose, so that you will determine. Now when we talked earlier, we do not want to, I think the slide is coming next, how long you give continuous treatment with benzodiazepines. You have to keep it in mind too. So here, if you look at the temazepam, that is short-acting, is the duration and the intermediate level. So that means it is 3 to 8 hours duration. So if I ask this question now, are we going to use this for sleep induction or sleep maintenance? Good. See, that's the simple thing because it's not going to help in terms of induction. But the short-acting one that we prefer for sleep maintenance. But there is another drug that flurazepam, we prefer it. So this is the triazolam. It is also in the short-acting range. We have the flurazepam, that is the long-acting one. The advantage with flurazepam is even though we do not want to treat a patient for those drugs for long term, even if we withdraw the drug for flurazepam, because of its slow metabolism, because of its active metabolites, it stays longer. So even the drug is withdrawn, still patient produces beneficial effect of the drug. So that's how you choose which one you want to go for. So these are the couple of drugs that is in the market right now available. So you have your choice which one you like to use. Okay, so this is what we said, the management. The tapering is the most convenient and most effective way. You cannot or you do not want to withdraw depending on what you are using. So if it is more than 2 weeks, that's what you need to do. Okay, so here comes, if we do not like benzodiazepines, how we can continue. So that's what this comes. So because if you recall the earlier slide when we talk about the mechanism of the benzodiazepines work, we know the receptors of GABA, that is our target. Because we know that the GABA is the GABAergic system that reduces the brain activity. So now, if we have a mechanism or we have a compound that can interfere with that system, which is not a benzodiazepine, we may have some advantage. So that comes to the non-benzodiazepines, we call benzodiazepine receptor agonist. So there is an interesting term from them, we call them Z compound, because all the names that starts with Z. So what they are doing the same thing. They are binding with the benzodiazepine receptor, with the GABA A receptor, we call them the allosteric site. So the binding here, they produce similar effect like they open the chloride channel in response to GABA, so that hyperpolarization, we get a similar effect as in benzodiazepines. However, they are not benzodiazepines. So by doing that, their efficacies are almost similar, but we minimize some of the adverse effects. What adverse effects? If we talk about the individual one, we are going there. As you mentioned, there is effect like muscle relaxation, anticonvulsant effect. Those are mostly coming from the periphery. Now, these drugs, they do not impact the receptors in the periphery. They impact only the receptors in the central nervous system. So that those drugs do not have muscle relaxant effect, they do not have those anticonvulsant effects. So we minimize some of those things by using these non-benzodiazepines drugs. So two of them we talk here. They are still binding with the same receptor. And another key area that they do not change the sleep pattern. So because benzodiazepines, the way they work, as you mentioned, they change the stage 1 and 2, increase the duration of 1 and 2, and then reduce 3 and 4. So it changed the pattern. Those non-benzodiazepines, they do not change that pattern. And again, they are all rapidly absorbed. They do not have any issue in terms of metabolism, and they produce a residual effect. Like any other benzodiazepines and the sedatives drug, they produce the residual effect. So we put here, there is one of those Z compound that is withdrawn actually from the market because it has some toxic effect. And that, okay. Now, these are the individual Z compound that we saw, and earlier we have this Zopiclone that is being used here. Again, they are all still, it's a chemically different compound. That's completely different than benzodiazepine, do not have any similarity in barbiturates, but the mechanism is still the same, going with the benzodiazepine receptors. And these are, so again, they all reduce the sleep latency and then help the person to fall asleep quickly. There are one thing to keep in mind, that some of the drugs, their effective start time is very quick, so 30 minutes. So if a person wants to sleep in next 1 hour, you can give. But if the person is not planning to sleep, going to do some work, then these drugs are dangerous because they will fall asleep. So that is again part of advice and patient counseling that needs to be considered. And the dose here for this Zopiclone, it can start with 1 milligram, but for elderly, those need to be considered in a different way. Now, I put barbiturate intentionally here because the reason why we were not excited for barbiturate because it induced tolerance, it induced drug metabolizing enzymes, it develops physical dependency, and it associated with high withdrawal effects. I still put the slide here just to go back. If for any reason we cannot use benzodiazepines in a worse scenario, we can use barbiturate, but it needs a lot of monitoring, and these are the reasons why we actually did not use. But there is a key point with barbiturates that we put in earlier part in a yellow font. Barbiturates have effects almost benzodiazepines or the GABA receptors by itself. So even though in the lower concentration it produces sedative effect, it do not have much, but in higher dose, even if there is no GABA, so that's what differentiates between benzodiazepines and barbiturates. The benzodiazepines do not have any effect on GABA receptor by itself. It cannot put a person on sleep if there is no GABA. However, barbiturates, it can depress that GABA receptors without GABA. It can cause hyperpolarization, it can depress the CNS. That's why we do not like that drug. And that's what producing all the toxicity. And if you recall the earlier slide where you put the toxic effects of barbiturates are far higher than the benzodiazepines. Other than that, they are well absorbed, they do not have any issue in terms of metabolism, excreted by the kidney, metabolized in the liver. So we are okay. Now, adverse effects of benzodiazepines is, again, these are some cartoon picture. Not much to answer. Alright. Now, these are the newer drugs. We are not looking into sleep in a different perspective. We initially thought that, okay, what are the chemistry that is causing sleep? What are the neurotransmitters? Which of the part that in the brain that is helping? So now, when we start looking into normal physiologic process and how a person falls asleep, what is the correlation? So as you know now, the melatonin and the cortisol, that creates the balance. That is the circadian rhythm. When it comes in the evening, it gets dark, we release melatonin to put us sleep. Before we wake up early in the morning, even before we wake up, body's clock automatically triggers cortisol increase blood pressure, respiration. You get up from bed, ready to face the world. So that balance, once it is impaired, then we have all kinds of issues. So now, since we know that melatonin is the one that is initiating the sleep, so then we start looking into that how the melatonin is working. So melatonin has its own receptors, we call the MT1 and MT2 receptors, where it binds and induce the sleep part. So there are two drugs in the market. Both drugs working the same way. They are working with the melatonin 1 and 2 receptors that bind there. Now, melatonin receptor agonist, they have one advantage in terms of the patient that we call the non-24-hour sleep disorders, especially people who are blind. Because physiologically and psychologically, we go to sleep when it gets dark. So people who are blind, they don't see dark, they are always dark. So for them, it is very difficult to fall asleep. So melatonin and melatonin receptor agonists are working very good on that patients. But there are other patients where you want to induce sleep. You can give them melatonin receptor agonists too. Now, we are still excited about melatonin receptor agonists. We are using them. However, we do not have enough clinical data yet that in terms of long-term use, what it is producing or what it is doing into the normal physics or physiology of a person. So that part is still debatable. Okay, so these are the two. Both of them work similarly. They are working with the MT1 and MT2 receptor. But only thing is their redoxon is a tricyclic entity analogs of melatonin. So if it is tricyclic, there are other anxiolytic effects associated with the chemical compound of that. Other than that, now it's well absorbed, metabolized in the liver, nothing different. But only advantage here it is, since it is mimicking normal physiologic process, that becomes more tolerable and more appreciated by the patient. And the adverse effects, as I said, not because of much clinical data, we don't know how bad it is at this point. Okay, these are the drugs that we use in sleep disorders, but they are not specifically for sleep disorders. So one of them is here is trazodone, that is the antidepressant. Why we use trazodone? Because the major side effect of trazodone is sleep. So actually it is for other purpose, but we are using it in conjunction with other drug in sleep disorders. Okay, this is the most newest in the market. So earlier lecture we learned about the orexin. So now we know that is a neuropeptide. So it is a small molecule peptide. We are not saying it is a protein released in the brain that binds with a specific receptor. We call it orexin receptor. So that drug, it produces wakefulness. So now the idea is if you minimize the wakefulness, your normal physiologic sleep process will trigger and you will fall asleep. So that's the idea we use, and there is a drug at this point in the market, so orexin. It binds with the orexin receptor 1, OX1 and OX2, and inhibit the effects of orexin. Other than that, it is these are all common adverse effects for other things. Any drug that we use for sleep disorders, the early morning somnolence and the daytime sleepiness, they are common. Other than that, there is no notable difference. Okay, there are miscellaneous drugs that I put only 2 of them, and sometimes when I teach, students ask me that, oh, we are not using this drug, why you are still telling me about this drug? I say, well, you don't know. You may need to use it one day. So just know it. So one of them is chloral hydrate. It's a very old drug, but again, it has a similar effect like barbiturate. So we do not want to use it unless we really need. Another one we have that is meclopramide. This works like benzodiazepines. Again, we have better choice at this point, so we do not need to use it, but there's no harm to know about it. I put 4 drugs here. If you look at your slides, this we call the newest. I don't know how much they are in clinical use. 2 of them not even approved in US. These 2, one is the ritonavir, another one is the agomelatine, that is a melatonin receptor agonist and 5-HT inhibitor together. So these 2 not even approved, but these 2 are in the market, doxepin and the pregabalin. So here their mechanisms are little different. They are targeting to histamine also and serotonin and 5-HT uptake. So by inhibiting that, they are reducing the neuronal excitability. And in some area of the brain and the nervous system, the serotonergic systems are controlling the sleep pattern. So that's how these drugs are working. Other than that, I have a couple of slides. I'm not going to discuss them, but again, as I said, I put it intentionally so that you can take them home. The therapeutic advantage and disadvantage, just a quick glance, which of the drugs that you want to use, which you do not want to use. So we have the benzodiazepines, the melatonin receptor agonist in the list. Next one I put here, again for convenience, that is all the T half-life of those benzodiazepines and the melatonin receptor agonist that is in the market. So you can look at it based on the T half-life and the bioavailability, how quick they will start working, how long they will work, and what is the dose. So based on your patient assessment, you can choose which one you want to prescribe. And the last one is another slide. Since all the drugs that we talk here is focusing mostly on the insomnia, but there are other sleep disorders. So there's a couple of other different sleep disorders like those restless leg syndrome, narcolepsy, and obstructive sleep apnea. What is the common management pattern? I just put it there. And this is the reference. And thank you very much for not sitting there. I try to answer any question.
How do you approach patient who works in night shift and next day can't fall asleep? How do you get short acting or long acting?
Okay, that is another sleep disorder is called the circadian rhythm abnormality. So because of those shift work, that Other than that, if you recall, so again, I'm not physician at this point, but physiologically, is the circadian rhythm that person who are working at night shift because of the bright lights and things that you don't really over time, your melatonin is goes down. That you understand. And when they come to the daytime, because they can sleep, they fall into the daytime. So, how, as I said, non-pharmacology management is to change the pattern. Pharmacology management is to keep the melatonin when they want. I say, is that
I have a question about barbiturates and how they work. I was under the impression that they didn't need to have GABA receptor necessarily.